quick introduction of his is, he is B.Tech from IIT Kharagpur, M.Tech from IIT Kharagpur, PhD from Singapore, and now is a professor at IIM Bangalore. And he's here for some seminars he had to give at ISER, Aund. Right? Prabhuji has been a very good student, a very good preacher, right, all these years, and a very good devotee who is inspiring so many devotees. He travels around India and gives seminars for so many youth preaching projects that we have. And for many years he was staying at NVCC, but his profession required that he move from Pune. But we invite him. I have put a request to him that he can apply for a job at ISER itself, or maybe become the director of ISER very soon. Right? Why small-time professor or something? Just become a director straight. So let us welcome His Grace Dinbandhu Chaitanya Prabhu to ISKCON BCEC by once chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. So he's staying at NVCC, but just because I invited and requested him, so he came all the way night once again, so that he can give this class. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Jaya, Jaya Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. So we are reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 6th chapter, verse number 21. Kindly repeat. Shruti vichakrame vishwan sasanasane ubhe Yad avidya cha vidya cha shrayah Shruti vichakrame vishwan shasananasane ubhe Yad avidya cha vidya cha purushastubhayashrayah Shruti vichakrame vishwan shasananasane ubhe Yad avidya cha vidya cha purushastubhayashrayah vidya cha purushastubhayashrayah Matajis. Word to word meaning. Shruti, the destination of the living entities. Vichakrame exists comprehensively. Vishwan, the all-pervading personality of Godhead. Sashana, activities of lording it over. Anasane, activities in devotional service. Ubhe, both. Yat, what is. Avidya, nescience. Cha, as well as. Vidya, factual knowledge. Cha, and. Purushaha, the Supreme Person. Tu, but. Ubhaya, for both of them. Ashrayah, the Master. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. By His energies, the all-pervading personality of Godhead is thus comprehensively the master in the activities of controlling and in devotional service. He is the ultimate master of both nescience and factual knowledge of all situations. Purport. The word Vishwan is significant in this verse. One who travels perfectly in every field of activity is called the Purusha or Kshetrajna. These two terms, Kshetrajna and Purusha, are equally applicable to both the individual self and the Supreme Self, the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 13.3, the matter is explained as follows. Kshetragnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetragnyor jnanam yattaj jnanam matam mama. Kshetra means the place, and one who knows the place is called the Kshetrajna. The individual self knows about his limited field of activities, but the Supreme Self, the Lord, knows about the unlimited field of activities. The individual soul knows about his own thinking, feeling and willing activities, but the super soul of the Paramatma, the Supreme Controller, being present everywhere, knows everyone's thinking, feeling and willing activities. And as such, the individual living entity is the minute master of his personal affairs, whereas the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master of everyone's affairs, past, present and future. Vedaham samatitani, etc. Only the ignorant person does not know this difference between the Lord and the living entities. The living entities, as distinguished from incognizant matter, may be qualitatively equal to the Lord in cognizance, but the living entity can never be equal to the Lord in full knowledge of past, present and future. And because the living entity is partially cognizant, he is therefore sometimes forgetful of his own identity. This forgetfulness is specifically manifested in the field of the Ekapada Vibhuti of the Lord or in the material world. But in the Tripada Vibhuti field of actions or in the spiritual world, there is no forgetfulness by the living entities, who are free from all kinds of contaminations resulting from the forgetful state of existence. The material body is the symbol of the gross and subtle form of forgetfulness. Therefore, the whole atmosphere of the material world is called avidya or nescience, whereas the whole atmosphere of the spiritual world is called vidya or full of knowledge. There are different stages of avidya and they are called dharma, artha and moksha. The idea of moksha or liberation held by the monist in the matter of oneness of the living entity and the Lord by ultimately merging in one. The idea of moksha or liberation held by the monist in the matter of oneness of the living entity and the Lord by ultimate merging in one is also the last stage of materialism of forgetfulness. Knowledge of the qualitative oneness of the self and super self is partial knowledge and ignorance also, because there is no knowledge of quantitative difference as explained above. The individual self can never be equal to the Lord in cognizance, otherwise he would not be placed in a state of forgetfulness. So because there is a stage of forgetfulness of the individual selves or the living entities, there is always a gulf of difference between the Lord and the living entity as between the part and the whole. The part is never equal to the whole, so the conception of 100% equality of the living being with the Lord is also nescience. In the field of nescience, activities are directed towards lording it over creation. In the material world, therefore, everyone is engaged in acquiring material opulence to lord it over the material world. Therefore, there is always clash and frustration, which are the symptoms of nescience. But in the field of knowledge, there is devotional service to the Lord, bhakti. Therefore, there is no chance of being contaminated by the influence of nescience or forgetfulness, avidya, in the liberated stage of devotional activities. The Lord is thus the proprietor of the fields both of nescience and of cognition, and it remains the choice of the living entity to exist in either of the above regions. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sa Advaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणम्। Hare Krishna. So, thank you all for being here for today's Bhagavatam discussion. I'm very grateful to be here and see this as an opportunity to serve all of you in some small way. I really don't have any understanding of Bhagavatam, nor am I qualified to sit on this beautiful Vyasasan, but somehow by the mercy of His Grace Kanaya Thakur Prabhu, I'm sitting here. I'm actually very nervous because it's probably the first time I'm giving a Bhagavatam class, at least in India. So it's really sometimes it's only devotees' confidence, faith in us that enables us to have the courage to sit on the Vyasas. And actually it's for me it's a very difficult thing, but I pray at the lotus feet of all the Vaishnavas assembled here, kindly bless me so that I can speak something in line with the Guru Parampara for the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and for our own purification. So today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.6.21. So this is Canto 2, the Cosmic Manifestation. In this particular chapter, we have Lord Brahma speaking to Narada Muni, and he's instructing Narada Muni about the various parts of the Supreme Lord's body and how different generative substances come out of those different parts and who is in charge of which part. So this has a very striking semblance to 3rd Canto, Chapter 6 also, where there is discussions between Maitreya and Vidura. And there actually Maitreya is also describing the different parts of the universal form of the Lord and how all of us are dependent. Every part of our body has some Devata who is the controlling deity. And therefore, at every stage of our life, at every moment of our life, we are dependent on ultimately the Supreme Lord for our functioning, for our activities, for our existence itself. So in this particular verse, so again a very beautiful translation in Srila Prabhupada. So here I'll just read the translation once again. By his energies, the all-pervading personality of Godhead is thus comprehensively the master in the activities of controlling and in devotional service. He is the ultimate master of both nescience and factual knowledge of all situations. So this verse can be actually divided into two parts. The first part is where the Lord is being described as the master in the activities of controlling and devotional service. That is one part. And then the second one is the ultimate master of both nescience and factual knowledge, vidya and avidya. Right? So that's the third line of the verse. And the second line of the verse, Shasananasane ubhe. So Shasana and Anasana. Right? So these two words are kind of rhyming words, but together, Sasana, Anasana, Sasanasane. So basically that is, Sasana means lording it over, and Anasana means activities in devotional service. So the Lord is a master of Sasana and Anasana. He is also the master of Vidya and Avidya. So this, in the first part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking about the Bhagavad Gita 13.3 and how, although the living entity and the Lord are both having some sasana, some controllership, right? So we have some mastery over our current, the body in which we are existing, but we are only minute masters. So the living entity and the Lord are both kshetragna. But then the living entity is not sarva kshetreshu bharata. He is not, knowledgeable about everybody's body or every situation. We are only having limited understanding about this body. Even within this body, we only have a limited understanding. Whereas the Supreme Lord is cognizant of everything, not just bodies, but everything that is happening in this universe. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna. Prabhupada is quoting that verse here. Bhavishyani cha bhutani mamtu vedana kaschana. So, while the Gyanis are very interested in, in the impersonal aspect of the Lord and in merging into the impersonal aspect, see here Prabhupada is saying that is only recognizing the qualitative oneness, and that is not complete knowledge. The living entities as distinguished from incognizant matter may be qualitatively equal to the Lord in cognizance. This is the first paragraph, last line of the purport. But the living entity can never be equal to the Lord in full knowledge of past, present and future. So we are partially cognizant. So here Prabhupada is saying that in the Ekapada Vibhuti of the Lord, Ekapada Vibhuti means this material world, which has already been explained in the previous verses to be 1/4. Eka, and then the Tripada is the remaining 3/4. So this Ekapada Vibhuti, the living entity is forgetful of his own identity, whereas that same forgetfulness is not there in the spiritual world. And how are we forgetful of our own identity? Because we basically think that, we are the Lord, we are the master. So we fail to understand that actually we are not the master, we are not knowledgeable, we are not perfectly cognizable. So then Prabhupada goes on to talk about how, the Lord is the master of both Vidya as well as Avidya. Right? So Prabhupada says that the spiritual world is full of Vidya, but the atmosphere of the material world is called Avidya or nescience. And then Prabhupada makes a very interesting point here. He says, Dharma, Artha, Kama is also Avidya. These are different stages of Avidya. Now somebody may wonder, how is Dharma, Artha and Kama Avidya? Because it seems that, these are the Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha are the 4 progressive stages of human life, which lead to ultimately, the Purushartha, which is, Prema, Krishna Prema. So Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha are also, on that path to liberation. But here, the perspective which is given by Srila Prabhupada is that the Dharma, Artha and Kama, which is practiced from the materialistic point of view, is basically aimed at moksha. And the definition of moksha, as Prabhupada says here, the idea of moksha or liberation held by the monist in the matter of oneness of the living entity and the Lord by ultimately merging in one. So this idea of moksha is actually the last stage of the materialism, Prabhupada says. So it is not actually spiritualism. It's actually the last stage of materialism, because it is, it's like the mastership mentality. When it is frustrated, essentially then when we see that in this world I'm not able to exhibit my mastership mentality or my, my tendency to lord it over. When I get frustrated, then what I do is I say, oh, okay, everything is futile. So then I go to the other end, from mastership to futility. And then I say, everything is futile, so let me just, give up everything and merge into that oneness. So this idea is actually a kind of a frustrated ego, it's a frustrated, basically mastership. So this frustrated mastership is not it's not considered in the spiritual realm, it's actually in the material realm itself. And then Prabhupada goes on to say that how the individual self can never be equal to the Lord. There's a gulf of difference. Now, there's a very interesting pastime of Prakashananda Saraswati in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is, it's worthwhile to, contemplate on that pastime here. So we all know that, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Bangladesh, when he went to Bangladesh, current Bangladesh, in those days, East Bengal, so he was, at that time he was a scholar, and Mahaprabhu, he basically was teaching Sanskrit in just 2 months to his students in Bangladesh. And then, when he was leaving, the students were so attached to him that they were not ready to, leave him. So they were like, how will we live without you? And at that time, one great Brahmana called Tapan Mishra, he actually has a dream that this personality, Nimai Pandit, who is here, he is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But don't tell this to anyone, you go and surrender to him. So the next day morning, he comes and surrenders to him. And then he says that, and he has a great urge to understand, go deeper into understanding who is the Supreme Lord. And he comes and prostrates himself in front of the Nimai Pandit, and then he explains his dream. And then Nimai Pandit tells him that you should go to Varanasi, I will come there, and I will instruct you what further to do. So with that faith, Tapan Mishra goes there to Banaras, and then he's staying with another devotee, Chandrasekhar. And for many years, actually for quite a few years, Mahaprabhu doesn't come there. He travels to different places. But just with that faith on Mahaprabhu, Tapan Mishra, on Mahaprabhu's assurance that I will come and instruct you, he sustains there. But the problem in Varanasi is that, it was the seat of the Mayavadis, capital of the Mayavadis. And regularly, they would actually criticize, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saying that, why is he dancing and chanting among the sentimentalists? He's a sannyasi, he should come and read Vedanta with us. So they would feel very pained with this criticism. And later on, when Mahaprabhu actually comes there after instructing Sanatana Goswami, Tapan Mishra reveals his heart and says that we cannot live here hearing this criticism about you. And so after that, then they explain about how these Mayavadis are criticizing, and Mahaprabhu just smiles. He doesn't say anything. But after a few days, then then he goes to visit Prakashanand Saraswati, and we all know that how he sits right there at the place of the foot wash. And they are all shocked actually to see that somebody who is a sannyasi is sitting at the foot wash place. And then they ask him why he's sitting there, and then he explains very humbly that, I'm not as qualified as all of you. You are all great sannyasis. And genuinely, humbly, Mahaprabhu explains. And Prakashanand Saraswati's heart is melted. He comes and picks up Mahaprabhu, makes him sit on the same seat where they're all sitting. But the thing which attracted them was the effulgence of the Lord. So the Lord is the source of all effulgence, and Mayavadis are very attracted to it. The impersonalists are very attracted to it. So immediately they although they were upset in one sense that Mahaprabhu was chanting and dancing with everyone, they were attracted to his effulgence. So already that was the beginning of their progress in devotional service. Then later on, then Prakashanand Saraswati asks questions that why you are dancing with these sentimentalists? Why don't you read Vedanta? That is the duty of the sannyasi, and also you are in the Bharati Sampradaya. That is a very, very glorious Sampradaya. You should be coming and reading Vedanta with us. And at that time, Mahaprabhu very humbly explains that although my Guru Maharaj called me a fool, but still I will attempt, if you allow me, I will attempt to explain what is Vedanta Sutra. And then Mahaprabhu explains in detail that actually, this whole idea of oneness which you are so much caught up with, which is your focus, is actually only a detail in the Vedas. Mahaprabhu says it's only a detail. It is not something which is, forget about being the goal of life, it is not something to be focused on, right? So it is a very, very small detail. And then Mahaprabhu explains, how actually it's the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is the source of that effulgence. And all of them are actually very, very convinced because of, not just one thing is Mahaprabhu's, this, like a solid explanation, a very, very, you have to play the game in the language of the other person. We cannot, like for example, if you are going to a very scholarly person, then we cannot use very simplistic arguments in front of them, right? So if you are going to, if you go to a scientist and, we want to defeat Darwin's theory, then we better be knowledgeable about it, and not just have some eyewash or hand-wavy statements, right? Of course, for convincing any, not so, who are not very knowledgeable about it, then it's okay to have some simpler arguments. But if you want to debate with the scholars, then we better also have, knowledge about it. Otherwise, we make a fool of ourselves, right? So Mahaprabhu he exhibited this dual opulence here. One was the knowledge, the scholarship, which of course he is the source of, and also the humility, which is a very, very amazing combination. Generally, it doesn't happen that both of these go together. So where I am at, at IIM. So we have a lot of people, who are extremely scholarly people, and they are not, bookish people, or they are not just scholars for the namesake. They are really scholars. They have their knowledge of their field very well. So, we see that the similar, they have this, a lot of, with the knowledge comes pride, naturally. So if you want to debate with them, you have to actually, have the solid arguments. And in this way, Mahaprabhu, with the combination of humility as well as, this scholarship, he was able to attract their hearts. But the point is that, he clearly mentions that this is only a detail in the Vedas. This is not to be emphasized or, leave alone making it the goal of our life. So in this way, we see through this that, Mahaprabhu teaches us how to preach to the influential people in society. So this is a very, very important lesson for us, because preaching to influential people is of course important. We know Yadyada Acharati Shreshtas Tatta Devetarojana. So whatever the great men, the acts which they perform, the common men follow. Whatever standards they set, the whole world follows. So we know that, but then many a time when we preach to them, we have to be careful that, number one, we speak in their language, and number two, we are actually humble, genuinely humble, not just for the sake of it. We actually respect them that Krishna is manifesting some opulence through them. It's just that they are unfortunately arrogant about it. So, but we are humble, and we approach them with humility. Then it can be seen that even people who are very, very hard-hearted or very, very arrogant can be transformed by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is a great lesson for us in how to preach to influential people. And of course, Mahaprabhu didn't just preach to one influential person like Prakashanand Saraswati. He actually preached to, like you all know, who else? Sarom Bhattacharya, then Keshav Kashmiri, right? So if you can go on and on, with so many examples of great Pandits and influential people he preached to. Now, the second part of the purport is focused on the aspect of how the Lord is the master of both controlling and devotional service. So this is a very interesting, again, Sashanasane. So that's basically master. The Lord is the comprehensive master of the activities of lording it over and activities of devotional service. Sashana is lording it over. So, so there's this verse in the, I think, 8.9 Bhagavad Gita, right? Kavim Puranam Anushashitaram Anoraniyamsam Anusmaretyat Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasaparastat. Right? So there again you see the word Sashana coming. Kavim Puranam Anushashitaram. So that's basically, Sashana means he's the controller. Sarvasya Dhataram means he's the maintainer. So he's not just the controller, but he's the maintainer. So the Lord is the comprehensive master, this verse says. Very interesting word, right? So if you look at it, so the word vichakrame means exists comprehensively. So word comprehensive, if you look at the dictionary meaning, it means extensive, exhaustive, very, very thorough, comprehensive. So it's like nothing is, no gaps. It's like a complete, like this verse which says, Om Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. So this is the Ishopanishad invocation verse, which says that the Lord is the complete whole, and all the units which are emanating from Him are complete in themselves. Right? So nothing is imperfect. Right? There is no gaps. He's comprehensive. Everything which comes out of the Lord is complete. And not just that, when those complete units come out of the complete whole, that complete whole remains complete. Right? So the complete whole remains balanced. The word used in the verse is actually balanced. So there is no imbalance. Generally, when we give away something from our body, or from our possessions, then we lose something, right? At least materially, right? If I go to a blood donation camp and donate my blood, then I won't be complete, at least for till the time it gets restored in my body. So there is some loss. But in the case of the Lord, there is no such thing, because He is the supreme personality of Godhead with these inconceivable potencies. Inconceivable. We cannot understand how it is possible that complete units are emanating and still the complete whole remains complete. It's just beyond material conception, but then that's the meaning of comprehensive. Otherwise, what is the meaning to comprehensive? Right? So comprehensive is used for the Lord, but for the living entity, it's just the opposite. Are we comprehensive masters? Certainly not. We are not, forget about being comprehensive, we are not even, we are not even capable of being master for even a short duration of time, because things are going to be taken away from us. So we are unstable, unsteady masters, whereas the Lord is a comprehensive master. So again, like this mastership mentality is the crux of the material world, right? Whether it is expressed through, how it is expressed is different. The symptoms are different. Like in yesterday's verse, we were discussing about, how abhrita vrataha. So those, those people who don't follow strictly the vows of celibacy, are abhritavrataha. So such people, they cannot inherit the kingdom of God. They cannot be qualified for the kingdom of God, right? So again, so that we were discussing yesterday that one of the ways by which that mastership mentality is expressed is through the sex desire, whether it is gross or subtle. I think Prabhu was also speaking about the subtle sex towards the end of the class yesterday, like aspiring for name, fame, right? So that is also basically one of the symptoms of the mastership mentality, right? So the symptoms are not too difficult to identify. So I think this was about 10 years back when I was in Pune. So there was this truck which was going somewhere, I don't know, maybe on one of the highways. So I was driving back of the truck and I saw it was written in Marathi. So I can read a little bit, but anyway, I understood that. It was written, Bhaktoska, Mujrakar. Bhaktoska, Mujrakar. And then, I was just discussing with some other devotees. Wow, that's pretty much summarizing the whole material world for us. That our mentality is in that just one sentence, it's all there, right? What are you looking at? Just offer your obeisances to me. Why anybody else? Me, I am the one, I'm right here, So so that is pretty much, it may sound like an exaggeration, but actually that is very deep rooted in our hearts, So like in our voice days also sometimes we would have this, we may not say it openly, but why am I not the OC or the PM, or why am I not the temple president once you come to the temple? So that question, it's there, it sounds a bit, it's not very, it's not good manners to express it openly, but it's there inside anyway. So that's one of the symptoms of our mastership mentality. Then there are many other symptoms which is sometimes a bit subtle. For example, humiliation. Feeling humiliated, it is also basically humiliation and humility are different. So quoting from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. So humiliation is false ego frustrated, but humility is false ego rejected. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says. Very interesting point. Because when we are trying to lord it over and there is frustration in that attempt, then we feel humiliated. Right? So I give my opinion in a meeting, but then it is discarded because it may not be practical, or majority don't accept it. But I feel humiliated because I was so attached to my opinion, rather than what I should be attached to is that the meeting should be, successful in whatever it has to achieve, not in attachment to my opinion, right? So when we are attached to our ego and our whatever comes out of it, then basically we feel humiliated. But humility is not like that. Humility means where actually we genuinely feel that I'm insignificant, but I have faith in the greatness of the Lord. Both are there. It's a combination, right? So many a time, there are these three definitions of humility which for me are very, I hold them in my heart very, I try to hold them close to the ideals which I aspire for. One of the definitions what Prabhupada gives, right? So humility means that one should not be eager to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Right? This is one of the definitions which Prabhupada gives. I think this is in which book, Prabhu? Nectar of Instruction, maybe? One should not be eager to have the satisfaction of not being honored by others. That is the first definition. And then there is another definition which, this I heard from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Humility means not to think less of oneself, not to think oneself less, but to think less of oneself. Right? Not to think oneself less, but to think less of oneself. That means it's not about saying I'm so degraded, I'm so fallen, I'm whatever Kali Yuga product, etc., etc. But rather to think less of oneself. The I should be out of the picture. The I am fallen. So like somebody told Prabhupada that I am the most fallen. Prabhupada said, you are the most nothing. You're simply insignificant. So that I has to go out of the picture. Like few days back, Amarendra Prabhu was also telling very beautifully that जो लोग हर एक चीज में अपने को लेके आते हैं, भगवान के विषय में भी अपने को लेके आते हैं, उसको बोलते हैं घमंड. So like you go I was going in the auto the other day and we were discussing, why don't you come to the temple? We have a beautiful temple, Radha Vrindavan Chandra. अरे हमको तो पता ही, हम तो भगवत गीता पढ़ते हैं, कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन. काम करो, कर्म की फल की अपेक्षा मत करो. So this is the standard reply, right? But then we were talking about the Lord, but then somehow the other I comes into the picture. What I have done, what I know, the whole focus is on I know. So till the time that is there, it's very difficult to progress. Right? So these are all symptoms of that, the mastership mentality. Another definition of humility, which I again heard from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, is humility means to understand that what I don't know is more important than what I know. Very beautiful definition. What I don't know, which is a lot. I don't know most of the things, how it's happening. But we think what I know is so important, which is why, there is so much ghamand, there is so much arrogance. There cannot be arrogance if, we are conscious of what I don't know. Right? That is why some of the greatest scientists are actually humble, because they are at the boundaries of knowledge. They know that I'm at the boundary, but beyond the boundary is much more. Right? I may be entered into the ocean, maybe, even if I go into the ocean hundreds of kilometers, still the ocean is endless only. So a really intelligent person will be humble. The beautiful example from Chaitanya Charitamrita is of Keshav Kashmiri. So if you actually go deep into this pastime, you will see that, Keshav Kashmiri's, that his qualification was extraordinary. Again, it's hard to imagine. Sometimes we can just trivialize, and we may not actually understand who is Keshav Kashmiri unless you meet somebody like him. You can trust me. I have met some people who are a glimpse of Keshav Kashmiri. Even today, they are there. Okay, because I many times I'm in the midst of these kind of people. They are really, really blessed. It's one of the opulences which Krishna bestows, that they have amazing memory, amazing analytical skills, and they are like super skilled people. There are professors who will go into the class without any notes at all and teach, for the whole course. It's all in their head, and all kinds of complicated things they are teaching. But at the end of the day, all of this knowledge is, it's useless without the humility. But anyway, Keshav Kashmiri was one such great scholar. It is said that the goddess Saraswati was actually always dancing on his tongue whenever he would speak. There was never a time when he failed in his debates or in his arguments. And such a person came to Navadvip, and he was accompanied by all these elephants and chariots and horses, and he was sitting in a palanquin. And the Navadvip Vasis became very fearful that who will challenge him, because we are the seat of scholarship. We are already famous as the seat of scholarship, but now we will be defeated by him. So they could not identify anyone. Anyway, he came in and, he challenged as he would challenge everywhere. He had a Digvijay, the Patrika. He said, either you have to sign, you have to debate and sign and say that I was defeated, because nobody ever won against him. Or if you are too fearful, you have to sign that I was too fearful and therefore I didn't, debate with him. Either way, you have to sign. So he would go around, getting this thing signed. And Nimai Pandit understood that, he's very, very successful and also very proud. So, but Mahaprabhu again applied the same two principles which we saw in Prakashanand Saraswati's case. That is, he was very, he spoke in the language which the other person could understand, in this case Keshav Kashmiri, and second, he was very humble. So Mahaprabhu was not just humble, sensitive. He said that I don't want to humiliate him in public, right? It's very, it will be too much for him to accept, especially for one who is honored. Dishonor is worse than death. So he said, let me go to the bank of the Ganges, and then I will inspire him, because I am the Paramatma in everyone's heart, I will inspire him to come to the Ganges alone, without all his paraphernalia, palanquin, etc. So that happened, he came, and then Nimai Pandit was sitting with his friends, and then, after taking he did Achaman in the Ganges, then Keshav Kashmiri, looks at Nimai Pandit and says, oh, I heard you're a scholar. And then Nimai Pandit very respectfully says, yes, I'm trying to teach grammar. And then he says, oh, you are just a mere scholar. In a very demeaning way. Then Mahaprabhu says, yeah, we know about your greatness. Nobody can defeat you. But he humbly accepts and he says that, yes, you are great. And then after that, he requests that, can you please compose 100, he doesn't say 100, he says, can you please compose some verses on the Ganges? And then immediately, like the Ganges itself, he speaks on the spot 100 verses original. No copy paste or, no, preparation, nothing. Original 100 verses, Sanskrit, verses. And then after that, obviously he's looking around saying, can you match that? No, can anybody even imagine to match that? And Nimai Pandit very coolly, he says, can you please identify the faults in your verses? And this is like this is like poking, I don't know, it's the first stroke of mercy where, our ego is literally like, it's like putting as a churi into our ego, It's like poking that ego. And then Mahaprabhu, when he asked this, he replies saying, how can you speak like this? How impudent? How can there be any faults in my verses? And then immediately Mahaprabhu says, actually, in your 64th verse. And then he says, how did you remember the 64th verse? I just spoke it all that. I don't remember myself. So then 64th verse, he said, there are many types of errors in your, in your composition. First of all, there is basically redundancy. Some of the words you have used are redundant, so it is not the right way to do it. Then he said, there is also other kinds of errors in your composition. He identified very clearly, and then Keshav Kashmiri was actually, and he said, this is I have told you just 3 of the unlimited number of mistakes in your composition. And that was like the final nail in the coffin, and then he became speechless. And it is said that at that time, he was not able to respond, because Mother Saraswati did not favor him. And then he goes home, and then he gets in a dream that Mother Saraswati says, you should not feel, humiliated, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nimai Pandit, you should go and surrender to him. So in this way, Mahaprabhu, he identified that polluted mentality and cured it like an expert physician without humiliating the other, in this case, Keshav Kashmiri. So this, this self-pity is something which arises out of frustrated false ego. We have to be very careful of this, because that is something which we may not realize or recognize easily. Sometimes, we tend to go into that zone of, oh, I am so fallen, or, I have no qualification. And because the I is in the center, rather than Guru and Krishna, then basically the world is still centered around ourselves only, right? So again, that think less of oneself, but not think oneself less. That definition of humility is very applicable, right? So this entire, this self-pity is something which we have to be very, very careful about. And generally speaking, so this self-pity or self-absorption also arises out of a kind of absorption in mundane affairs, right? So when we are very, very absorbed in, things which we feel are important, then we tend to also take the things of this world too seriously, right? So like, for example, somebody was telling me the other day, have you heard about the latest issue about the electoral bonds? It has been abolished or something happened recently. So, then I said, no, I haven't heard. He said, you haven't heard? How come? This is the most important thing in the whole country today. The whole society is discussing about it. Our future is dependent on it. There is some lecture going on about it. We are all going to attend it, and, going on and on and on. I was like, I really don't know about it. And I mean, it's fine. It's important or not. I don't want to debate about it. But I don't think, at least for me at this stage, it is so important that I have to, know it the way you're so excited about it. So I can't be so excited about it. It's okay. It's fine. So this kind of absorption, like Shrota Vyadini Rajendra Ninam Santi Sahasrasha Apashyatam Atpatatvam Griheshu Grihamedinam. So there are hundreds and actually countless matters for discussion in the world. And the moment we get into that zone, then, our absorption in, the world, and basically we project ourselves into all these topics, right? That is why we are so interested in them, because we are projecting ourselves. We think that, yes, I am going to benefit the country. I am going to, basically be at the center. So we tend to trivialize the divine and romanticize the, what we call the mundane, right? So this is the problem actually. So whatever is divine, we trivialize that and then romanticize the mundane as if that is the most important thing. So in Prabhupada's pastimes also, if you read the Leelamrit, you will see many cases where this, this kind of this disease of the mastership mentality was coming out. So, for example, in the Leelamrit Volume 1, it so happened that when Prabhupada was in the US, at one point in Los Angeles temple, Prabhupada was coming into the temple hall and he saw that one of his disciples had placed his picture upside down. Now, at first glance, it looks very trivial. Maybe it's something which is ignorable, but Prabhupada was seeing the disease behind the symptom, not just the symptom. It's not about the upside down thing. That may not be the most important, but what is the mentality which leads to that? The mentality is that Guru can be taken lightly. Why? Because I'm as, the mentality is I am, the greatest, or I am the master. So therefore, from there comes that subtle, that subtle mentality that yes, Guru is not, is not as great as we are told. And then, all these other things will follow from there. So Prabhupada was very unhappy with that. Similarly, after a few days, there was another unpleasant incident where the Boston press at that time, the ISKCON press, they didn't print Prabhupada's name completely. So they removed his Divine Grace, and they also removed Prabhupada. They only said A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Why? Because they had heard something from Prabhupada's God brothers that the word Prabhupada is only reserved for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, we cannot use it for everyone. So Prabhupada was very upset. He said, again, this is minimization of the Guru. And then at another time, they removed the word founder Acharya. They said only Acharya, founder was gone. So Prabhupada again said, you see, this is again the symptom of that diseased mentality. So founder is the most important thing because there is no other founder Acharya. There is only one founder Acharya for our society. There may be many Acharyas, but there will be only one founder Acharya. And then after some time, there was many other incidents. Prabhupada went through San Francisco for the Rath Yatra, and his disciples told, you cannot ride, please don't, not you cannot, please don't ride on the Ratha cart because, there are some hooligans. They are creating nuisance. If you ride on the cart, then we fear that you will be you will be troubled by them. So Prabhupada said, no, but I have to ride because I am the leader of this society. They somehow they said, no, it is dangerous for you. And instead, they rode on the cart. Prabhupada's some of the disciples did not allow Prabhupada to ride, but they rode. When Prabhupada came to know this, he was very saddened. And like this, one after the other, things were going on. And Prabhupada, another time, one disciple asked Prabhupada that, this was a question which maybe it came up as, like they would write letters to Prabhupada. So they asked that, what were you in your previous life? So can you imagine asking a spiritual master that question direct? What were you in your spiritual life? And, are you entangled in the laws of karma? Somebody asked. So Prabhupada gives a full reply. You can read in the Leelamrita. The spiritual master is always liberated. In any condition, he should not be mistaken as an ordinary human being. Prabhupada explains this. And then he says, I don't know why you have asked me about my previous life and whether I was subjected to the laws of karma. But even accepting that I was subjected to the laws of material nature, does it hamper my becoming spiritual master? Prabhupada is asking his disciples. Is it going to hamper me becoming the guru? What is your opinion? From the life of Narada Muni, it is distinct that although he was a conditioned soul in his previous life, there was no impediment of his becoming the spiritual master. Right? In his previous life, he was a Dasi Putra. He was not perfect, but he became a spiritual master. So therefore, Prabhupada is saying, as far as I am concerned, in my previous life, one great astrologer calculated that I was a physician and my life was sinless. Prabhupada is going to this extent of explaining, that my life was sinless. And then Prabhupada quotes that Bhagavad Gita verse that, the fallen yogis take birth in Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yogo Brishtopi Jayate. And then Prabhupada says, I got the opportunity to be born of a pious father and brought up in the Malik family, the richest family. He said, I had immense opportunities to indulge in the 4 principles of sinful life because I was connected with an aristocratic family. Krishna always saved me, and throughout my whole life, I do not know what is illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, or gambling. Prabhupada is writing, so far in my present life is concerned, I don't remember any part of my life when I was forgetful of Krishna. So, this is Prabhupada's letter, to his disciple who asked him this question. So, anyway, after this, many other things happened. 4 sannyasis claimed that, Prabhupada has rejected us, therefore we are all now anath. So they started claiming this in New Vrindavan. And he said that because we have offended him. And why we have offended him? Because we didn't realize he is God. Now you see, this is the other end of the spectrum. The first we disrespect the Guru, and then we misunderstand the Guru's displeasure to be, basically something which is again, like it comes to the zone of self-pity, right? Guilt, as a emotion, guilt is good only to the extent it favors or enhances our devotional service. Otherwise, this kind of projected guilt, right? So this is basically, this guilt is kind of like, okay, because Prabhupada was he's God, we didn't realize it, so therefore he's rejected us, and therefore what we should do, we should not chant Hare Krishna because no use. That's what they said actually. Because Guru is upset with you, so there is no use. So now you just repent. That's what they said. Don't do anything, just repent. And then it is explained in the Leelamrita that all of them, at that time they start reading Prabhupada's books very deeply to understand whether it's true or not. And then they come to the conclusion that no, Prabhupada has not rejected us. And Prabhupada also writes a letter saying, I have not rejected you, but I may be upset with some things which are happening, but I have not rejected you. So in this way, this kind of, projected guilt, self-pity, all of these are symptoms of that same, the mastership mentality. So now we discuss the symptoms. The next part is what is the, consequences of this mastership mentality, right? So the consequences are obviously not very pleasant. So in the Bhagavatam, Prabhu, if you could, Haldar Prabhu, if you could go to 332, Yam Yam Artam Upadatte Dukhe Na Sukhetave, 332, Canto 3, chapter 30, verse number 2. Yam Yam Artam Upadatte Dukhe Na Sukhetave, Tam Tam Dhunoti Bhagavan Puman Chochati Yat Krite. So this verse, Bhagavatam 332 says, whatever is produced by the materialist with great pain and labor for so-called happiness, the Supreme Personality as the time factor destroys. And for this reason, the conditioned soul laments. So with all these mastership mentality, we go about and create all these fantastic, skyscrapers and technology and whatnot. We have created all this, amazing world around us, that will all be destroyed in no time, and then we will lament, right? So this is the consequence of that mastership mentality. So in the purport, actually, Prabhupada says, the waste of energy is due to the ignorance of the mass of people. The foolish materialists cannot understand that they are simply wasting time in producing material necessities which are destined to be vanquished in due course of time, right? So this is they not knowing this fact, they take the small flash of life to be everything, and they waste time in improving economic conditions. Right? The Prabhupada is literally, like nowadays everybody is talking about economic progress. You go to any, everybody knows about GDP, improving GDP, and everybody feels that is the goal of life, right? I have to improve my economic condition, the nation has to improve its economic condition. But Prabhupada here is saying it's a waste of time because this is not going to last for too long, right? So in this way, the consequences of mastership is that, there is basically frustration. And also there is misidentification. So this is Bhagavatam 11:2-37. Prabhu, if you could go to this very beautiful verse. Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshitaha syad ishad apetasya viparyayos asmritihi tanmaya mayayato buddha abhajetvam bhaktyayika esham gurudevatatma. So there are two things, viparyaya and asmritihi. Viparyaya means misidentification. That leads to asmritihi, forgetfulness. So mastership mentality leads to misidentification with the body, and then with that misidentification, we will basically forget our original position as a servant of the Lord, right? So in this way, we see that the consequence of mastership is also that there is forgetfulness. And lastly, now coming to the cure. What is the cure for this mastership mentality, right? The cure is, so again, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says, the cure for pride is not suppression of talent, but it's expression of intent. Very beautiful statement. The cure for pride is not suppression of talent, but expression of intent. Expression or purification of intent. So what does this mean? This means that if you have a given talent by Krishna, we should use it. We should not think, oh, I will become proud by using that talent, so let me not use that talent, right? So if I can sing, then I should sing. If my authorities tell me to sing. If somebody can speak, they should, speak about Srimad Bhagavatam rather than thinking that I am too fallen to speak. Because by the grace of Guru and Krishna, we will be actually purified if our intent is correct, right? Maybe I have false ego, but at least I have intent to overcome that, right? So in this respect, there is one very beautiful poem written by His Grace Radhesham Prabhu. It is called Do It Anyway. I think some of you might have seen it. So, Radhesham Prabhu was telling in one of the yatras that when you do pot washing, people may say, oh, when you do pot washing, people will click your pictures, then it will be published somewhere saying, see, here is IIT and who is washing pots and, he's so great and all those things. Then we become proud. So what is the use of washing pots? Better not to wash pots. So Radhesham Prabhu says, no. He gives this poem. He says that people are often unreasonable, illogical, self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest, people may cheat you. Be honest anyway. If you find happiness, others will be jealous. Be happy anyway. If you do good today, people will forget tomorrow. Be good anyway. And then lastly, Prabhupada says, when you do menial service to purify your heart, people will call you a show-off. But do it anyway. So that's the name of the poem, Do It Anyway. So in this way, we should not think that I can't express my talent. The cure is actually to express our talents rather than suppress our talents, right? So in this way, Krishna says, Vraja janartihan virayoshita nija janasmaya dhvamshana smita Bhajasake bhavat kinkari smano jalaruhananam charu darshaya. Sorry, not Krishna. This is the Gopi Geetam. So the gopis are singing this beautiful prayer saying that, Krishna, you are Nijajana Smaya. You are the destroyer of the pride, Smaya, of your Nijajana devotees. So therefore, Krishna will take care of us if we have that the correct intention, which is at least that I want to get out of this mess. I want to please you, Krishna. So Krishna smile, Nijajana Smaya. So here, Smaya means smile. So it is Krishna smile which destroys our pride. So just by glancing at the beautiful lotus-like smile of Krishna, we can overcome this pride. And then there are many other verses which basically establish the beauty of Krishna's body. Right? So Hasam Hare Avanatakila Loka Tivram. So the smile of Krishna it can drive away ocean of grief. Or Yasyananam Makarukundala Charu Hasam. Whoever sees Krishna sees a festival. It's a festival. Every part of Krishna's body is a festival. So when such a festival is available to us, then this pride can be destroyed immediately without, again, to the extent we surrender, it will be destroyed. So in this way, we can see that although mastership is not it's not a desirable quality, there is a cure available for us. And especially as followers of Srila Prabhupada, following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and all his disciples and all the great Acharyas, we must endeavor to express our talents, God-given talents, in the mood of servant. And someday we will be cured of this disease. There is no need to lose hope, because losing hope in the name of self-pity or in the name of frustration, that kind of self-pity is also another flip side of the false ego. That is not the solution. So in this way, let us all progress in our spiritual life. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Rita Gau Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.